Question for you. How many of you have used Google in the last week? Put up your hand if you used Google in the last week. Okay. How many of you have not used Google in the last week? How many of you use Google more than 5 times a day? So probably 80%. Okay, so here's an insight for you. We live in a post-Google world. We live in a post-Google world. So what does that mean? If we have all the answers and all the information all the time, then the real value in the post-Google world is asking the right questions. It's about asking the right questions. So today, I was struggling with how was I going to talk to all of you about how we reinvent, not really reinvent, invent the world of fundraising. And I struggle with how could I provide some value? You're all leaders. You all do things that make the world a better place. You're all respected members of your community. How could I add some value? And I think I can do that by maybe helping you frame some of the questions that you might want to take back to your organizations. Asking the right questions, but not any question, okay? Not any question. The questions, and there's 5 of them that I'd like to pose this morning to you, I call beach ball questions. And Zach, thank you so much. I don't know what he's written on here, but the important questions, I think, in life are called beach ball questions. And why are they called beach ball questions? Because how many of you have ever, as a little kid, or maybe like me as an adult, have gone to a beach or a pool, you blow up a beach ball, and the first thing you try to do is hold it under the water. You try to hold it under the water. Of course, you can't hold it under the water, right? And that, to me, is a beach ball question. A beach ball question is so important to you and to your organization and to your enterprise that you cannot hold it underwater. And so those are the 5 questions I'd like to pose today as part of this talk. And the first question, my first beach ball question, and I'll have you know, I'll let you in on a secret already, $7.20 invested in beach balls this morning in props. So we've spent the entire speaking budget, I think, for the year, Zach, on these props. The first beach ball question, and we actually have the questions written on the beach ball. First beach ball question, why do we call our sector not-for-profit? Have you ever thought about that? I've been in the not-for-profit sector for 8 years. And every day I wonder why we call it not-for-profit. My favorite restaurant in Toronto is right across the street here. It's the Kit Kat. And Al Carbone runs a great restaurant. Now, does he put a sign out in front of his restaurant saying, "This is not a shoe store"? Of course he doesn't. Why do we frame our sector? Why do we define ourselves? By what we're not. Have you ever thought about that? And what's in a name? You know, as Shakespeare said, "Is a rose by any other name not smell as sweet?" What's in a name? It is important. Calling ourselves not-for-profit, I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me. So I have another insight for you. If I bounce this out there, you're going to pretend you're like at a Beach Boys concert or Alice Cooper. Okay, here we go. Swing it around. Get it going. There we go. We're bouncing around some beach ball questions now. Oh, right in the back of the head. There we go. Okay, I'm liking that. Oh, thank you. What a collective accomplishment. See how well we work together? The coveted before lunch speaking spot when everybody's wondering what's for lunch. Why do we call ourselves the not-for-profit sector? We've thought about at Princess Margaret and my colleagues who are here today. We thought about and we've written about the idea of calling our sector social enterprise and framing our sector differently. Not-for-profit. Not what we're not, but what we are, a social enterprise. But actually, in preparing for this speech, my colleague and friend Zach Bailey here, who's a fine fundraiser, he said, you know what, why don't we go beyond social enterprise, that definition? That's been around, not that insightful. There's a better definition. What about social profit? Why don't we call our sector the social profit sector? Isn't that more accurate? Well, I thought that was pretty interesting, and I'm going to bring that forward for you to consider, social profit. What does that mean for us? It means that we can borrow from any of the sectors out there, from the government, from the private sector, from the not-for-profit sector. We can borrow from the ideas, the models, the risk-taking, maybe the compensation, maybe other factors that we want to bring in, the strategies, practices, into our sector. And we can bring them in to a sector that we frame differently as a social profit sector. So that's one question for you. Why do we call it not-for-profit? And why don't we call it the social profit sector? So second beach ball question. What do you believe in? What do you believe in? Now, all of you have a vision statement, you have a mission statement, you have a strategic plan, you work with volunteers, you energize and you motivate people every day. But one of the things that I really, really think is missing in our sector, in the social profit sector, is a really specific, focused, compelling understanding of what we believe in, that everybody believes in. That when a high net worth donor walks in with a big check, it doesn't change everything we believe in. That a new board chair who decides they want to change everything doesn't change everything that we believe in. We believe in something. And everybody associated with our organization believes in the same thing. Now, there's a word for this. This word is called creed. And a creed is just simply what you believe in. There's a great, actually it's called a credo or a credo that Johnson & Johnson, Robert Wood Johnson wrote in 1934. One of the great corporate creeds that I'll mention just in a little bit more in a second. But the Princess Margaret, we have a creed. And a creed statement is a one-page document that has inputs from everybody that is interested in our cause of cancer. But it, importantly, was not written by a committee. It was written by one very talented writer who took inputs from everyone. And that creed unifies us. It's our vision, it's our mission, but it's our ambition. It's our purpose. And it is emotive, and it brings people together in a huge way. It's one of the most important parts of everything we do, what we believe, a creed statement. So I won't bounce that one around, but that one up there. Our next beach ball question is about brand. What is your brand? Now, brand, as I've come to realize, is a bit of a dirty word in the not-for-profit sector. If we're in the social profit sector, it's not really something that causes people stress in talking about. If you understand brand, or if you frame brand in a way that Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon.com, defines brand, and as I'll use it in this little talk this morning, if you define brand in this way, then you'll see the importance of what is your brand in that question. Now, your brand is, quite simply, your reputation. So all those textbooks and all those marketing courses and all of those 3-day conferences you've gone to on brand, you know what? They're all good, they're important. There's a lot behind the science and art of brand building, but your brand is your reputation. As Jeff Bezos says, and I think this is really important, it is your reputation that you earn for trying to do difficult things well. Like, isn't that a great definition of what brand's all about? It's your reputation. It is not, importantly, what I call your slogan, which is your slogan and your logo. As you know, with volunteer board members, put them in front of a conversation about a logo or a slogan, you've got 3 hours of conversation, right? Everybody's an expert on brand. If you want to meet the true experts on brand, and I love my colleagues, the doctors and researchers I work with at the University Health Network and Princess Margaret, I adore them. But they're all the world's best experts on brand, especially when you talk about slogans and logos. Slogan and logo is one little tiny sliver. Actually, it looks like one of those charts Dan just put up. One little tiny sliver of what your reputation is all about. And in particular, your reputation for trying to do difficult things well. Isn't that a great reputation of a brand in the social profit space? Your reputation for trying to do difficult things well. My next question. So I guess this is really where the rubber hits the road. So how do you build? How can you build your social profit brand? What are the elements of building that social profit brand? I'll go out on the limb a little bit, and I know we're going to have some interesting discussion and dialogue this afternoon. But I'll say this to you. the most valuable asset your social profit organization has is its brand. And I don't mean its logo or slogan. I mean its reputation. Its reputation for doing difficult things well, or attempting to do difficult things well. It is your most valuable asset. If you don't agree with that, let's talk about it this afternoon, because in the not-for-profit space, I'll go back to that old school language, in the social profit space, your brand, without question, is your most valuable asset. Now, that's a pretty bold statement. How do you build this? How do you build this brand? And what does brand encompass? Well, I'd like you to think differently about what brand is and what it encompasses. I'd like to talk about 4 different inputs or components of building a social profit brand. So here's the 4. The first component, relating back to one of my first questions, is creed. You need to know what you believe in. What do you specifically believe in? What does your organization stand for? Not only what is your vision, what is your ambition? How are you going to change your corner of the world, or how are you going to change the world? And how does that one-page document align and inspire everybody in your organization with the same message, with the same mission, and the same vision, and the same ambition? And can people in your organization actually quote and repeat what is in your creed document, as opposed to, all of our plasticized things we have stuck up on the walls that written by committees that nobody understands or really follows. So creed is the first input. Creed, culture. Your culture is the most important part of building your brand, and your brand is your most important and most valuable asset. Your culture. Culture is more important than brand even. And it is the single most important input into building brand. Creed, culture. The people you surround yourself with, the volunteers, the staff, do they believe, do they live the creed, do they understand it? Do they believe in the same thing? Do you have, new major gift officers every 18 months? Does your staff turn over frequently? Are people there? Are they committed? Are they there for the long term? Are they there through thick and thin? I mean, that is a question about your culture that I think is so fundamentally important to building a brand. And most people who talk about brand tend to come out of the marketing world. But really, brand is much more of a human capital idea. It is about human resources, and it's about the people we surround ourselves. Creed, what do we believe? Culture, who do we surround ourselves with? The next one, the next input, creed, culture, is courage. Courage is the third one. Heard some pretty courageous comments up here this morning, I thought. I was very inspired by all of our speakers for different reasons. But all the people who step forward, to me, they're leaders, and they've had the courage of their convictions. Ann Golden is, to me, one of the most courageous people I've ever met for a variety of reasons. She has been a true believer in the way that the whole social enterprise, social profit, not-for-profit sector plays a role within Canadian society. This idea of courage as being one of the most important elements of brand in our sector might be something that's new to you, but if you believe and you have a creed and you have a culture that's built on commitment and performance and commitment and performance, the next input is courage to do what you believe with the people who also believe the same thing. So creed, culture, and courage. Creed, culture, and courage. The fourth input after creed, culture, and courage is impact. The way that you build your social profit brand, creed, culture, courage, impact. What do you do that has impact? How do you talk to your donor community about that impact? How specific is it? How frequently do you go back? How much courage do you say, you know what, we invested in that program for 5 years, and the stem cell that we thought was very promising, it didn't work out. You know what, as a matter of fact, it was a failure. We can't deliver a drug compound around this. That is the kind of courage that donors appreciate. And I think when it comes to great stewardship, courage is a major part of great stewardship and is directly linked into this idea of building your social profit brand. So creed, culture, courage, and impact are the inputs to building a great social profit brand. So I'm going to, my fifth beach ball question, thanks, Zach, is I guess the most important one at the end of the day. Because if you understand your creed, you build a culture of performance with people who truly believe and want to align and deliver on your ambition that's found in that creed document or in that statement, that one-page statement of what you believe. If you have the courage to really pursue those dreams, that your brand or your reputation for doing difficult things or trying to do difficult things well, that your reputation is for delivering on that, then the last and final question that I would pose to you today that's important about reinventing fundraising is, who do we work for? And so many of us, this is one of the biggest challenges. Lots of people out of the private sector come and see me and they say, I'm really interested in going over and working in the not-for-profit sector and social enterprise, the social profit sector. What advice can you give me? And one of the most important things, in the private sector, the chain of command, the line of authority, who do you work for? The shareholders are at the top, the CEO, and it goes down through the organization. It's pretty clear who you work for, what your plan is, why you're there. You're there to make money. In the social profit sector, who you work for is an unbelievably complicated question, because so many of us in the causes that we support really go across segments, sectors, groups of people, individuals, and it is one of the most important things to understand. Maybe working at Princess Margaret, as we do, the idea of to conquer cancer in our lifetime, which is at the top of our creed statement, to be one of the world's top 5 cancer research centers. Aspirational, but last year we ranked 3rd in the world in our performance in cancer research. We have those elements of our creed that we hold close to us. Those are things that are promises for the future. But right now, in our palliative care center, there are 20 people in the 20 rooms that are suffering greatly. They're surrounded by family and friends, and all those family and friends are there to provide them with support as they, many of them, near their end-of-life experience. So we work for such a broad base of people, government and doctors and researchers and people with cancer, who had cancer, who think that they might have cancer, related diseases that come in. So who do you work for? And I'd actually like to finish my presentation today by giving you an idea of who we work for. So if we can play the video now, thank you. And thank you all.